Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, staring at the massive alien structure floating in the darkness of space. 3 months ago, humanity had tested its first faster-than-light engine. Now, they were face to face with proof that they were not alone in the universe. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. Lights flickered across its surface, in patterns that seemed almost organic. Jake's hands gripped the armrests of his command chair as his communications officer worked to establish contact. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Lieutenant Maya Brooks said from her station. "It's in English, sir." Jake felt his stomach tighten. How did they know English? The answer came quickly, when a holographic figure appeared in the center of the bridge. The alien was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large dark eyes. It wore robes that shimmered with colors Jake had never seen before. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien spoke, its voice carrying a musical quality. "I am Ambassador Velk, of the Arxian Collective. We represent the Galactic Council, a union of 17 civilizations. We have been monitoring your world since you first split the atom." Jake stood slowly, trying to maintain his composure. "This is Captain Jake Morrison, of the exploration vessel Horizon, representing the United Earth government. We come in peace." Velk's expression changed to something that might have been concern. "Peace is welcome, Captain Morrison. However, we must ask you a question of utmost importance. What is the classification of your homeworld?" Jake looked at Maya, who shrugged. "I don't understand the question, Ambassador. Your gravity, radiation levels, atmospheric pressure, predator diversity, disease factors," Velk listed quickly. "Please, this is critical." Maya pulled up Earth's data and transmitted it. The silence that followed was deafening. Velk's large eyes grew even wider, and the ambassador seemed to sway slightly. "A Class 12 Deathworld," Velk whispered. "You evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld. This is impossible. No species should be able to develop civilization on such a planet." Jake felt a spark of defensiveness. "Earth is our home. Yes, it can be harsh, but we've adapted." "Harsh?" Velk's voice rose. "Captain, your gravity is 3 times what most species consider survivable. Your star bombards your surface with radiation that would sterilize most worlds. Your weather patterns include storms that could tear apart our cities. Your ocean alone contains thousands of creatures that could kill my entire species." The ambassador paused, seeming to collect himself. "And you call this harsh?" Maya stepped forward. "Ambassador Velk, why does this matter so much?" Velk's hologram flickered, and suddenly the bridge was filled with images, stars, planets, and fleets of ships locked in battle. Jake saw explosions, worlds burning, and species fleeing in terror. "This is why," Velk said quietly. "For 300 years, the Krell Dominion has been expanding from the galactic core. They conquer everything in their path. We have tried to fight them, Captain Morrison. We have lost billions. Our fleets are broken. Our worlds are falling. And we have nothing left to give." Jake watched the images, his military training analyzing the battles. The Council ships fought defensively, always retreating, always trying to minimize losses. The Krell pressed forward relentlessly, overwhelming through sheer persistence. "Why are you telling us this?" Jake asked. "Because we wanted to warn you," Velk replied. "We detected your first lightspeed test. We came to tell you to run, to hide, to never let the Krell find you. But now, seeing that you come from a death world," the ambassador trailed off. End quote. Maya's eyes lit up with understanding. "You're not here to warn us. You're here to ask for help." Velk seemed to shrink. "We would never ask such a thing. You are barely into space. You have no experience with galactic warfare. It would be suicide." Jake looked at the images still playing around him. He saw families fleeing, burning cities, children crying, soldiers making last stands. It reminded him of Earth's own history, of every war humanity had ever fought. What makes the Krell so effective? Maya asked, moving closer to the hologram. They are strong, organized, and ruthless, Velk explained. They stand 8 feet tall with armored bodies. They feel no fear, show no mercy. They're warriors trained from birth. They are perfect soldiers. Maya smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Ambassador, humans have been fighting since before we could speak. We've survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and each other. We've fought wars that killed millions. We've built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. She gestured to the images. You say the Krell are perfect soldiers? Let me tell you about Deathworlders. Over the next hour, Maya explained humanity's history. She showed Velk videos of human athletes, soldiers training, and historical battles. She explained how humans could run for hours without stopping, how they could heal from injuries that would kill most species, how they could eat nearly anything and survive in almost any environment. Velk watched in growing horror and fascination. Your people fight each other for sport? You poison yourselves with alcohol for recreation? You voluntarily expose yourselves to danger? We call it living, Jake said. Ambassador, you came here to warn us about the Krell. But maybe, just maybe, the Krell should be warned about us. Velk was silent for a long moment. Captain Morrison, if humanity were to help us, what would you require? Jake thought carefully. Technology, resources, and knowledge. We need to know everything about the Krell. Their tactics, their worlds, their weaknesses. And we need access to your manufacturing capabilities. And in return, we'll teach the Krell what happens when you threaten a deathworld species, Jake said firmly. We'll show them why Earth produced survivors. Velk looked at the data about Earth again, then at the humans before him. Very well, Captain Morrison. I will present your offer to the Council. But I must warn you, what you are proposing will change the galaxy forever. Good, Maya said. It's about time someone fought back. The hologram faded, leaving Jake and Maya alone on the bridge. Around them, the crew sat in stunned silence. Did we just volunteer Earth for an interstellar war? Jake asked quietly. Maya nodded. Yes, sir. I believe we did. Jake looked out at the stars, thinking about humanity's history of conflict and survival. Then we'd better not lose. Alert Earth Command. Tell them to prepare every ship, every soldier, every resource we have. The Krell wanted a war. They're about to get one from a species that's been at war with its own planet for millions of years. Dr. Nathan Cole had never imagined he would be explaining why humans could drink coffee to a room full of terrified aliens. Yet here he was, standing in the grand hall of the Council's central station, holding a simple cup of the dark beverage, while 17 different species stared at him in horror. It's a mild stimulant, Nathan explained patiently. We drink it to wake up in the morning. Ambassador Velk translated for the others, and the reaction was immediate. A crystalline being from the Shard Collective actually cracked slightly, its light dimming with shock. Dr. Cole, Velk said carefully. You consume a neurotoxin voluntarily? Daily? Nathan looked down at his coffee. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad. But yes, most humans drink this. Some drink several cups a day. Commander Lisa Grant stood beside Nathan, trying not to laugh. She was in full Marine Corps dress uniform, and the medals on her chest represented 3 tours of combat duty. To the assembled aliens, she looked like a friendly diplomat. Nathan knew better. Lisa could probably kill everyone in this room with her bare hands. Perhaps we should move on to the physical demonstrations, Lisa suggested. That might be easier to understand. The Council had requested a full briefing on human capabilities. They needed to understand what they were getting into by accepting human military assistance. Nathan and Lisa had spent 2 weeks preparing demonstrations, but they were quickly learning that nothing could truly prepare aliens for the reality of Deathworlders. Lisa led the group to a gymnasium where a dozen human Marines were conducting what they called a light training session. The aliens followed hesitantly, staying close together like frightened children. Sergeant Chris Palmer was leading the Marines through exercises. Push-ups, pull-ups, running, and sparring. All basic training activities that every human soldier knew. To the aliens, it looked like torture. "They're damaging their muscle tissue intentionally," a reptilian council member hissed. "Why? What purpose does this serve?" "It makes them stronger," Nathan explained. "Human muscles grow back tougher after being stressed. We call it exercise." "Grow back?" Velk's voice was faint. "You mean they will need medical treatment?" Lisa shook her head. "No. They'll be fine by tomorrow. Maybe a little sore. But that's normal. Normal." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Nothing about this was normal to the council species. Chris noticed the observers and jogged over. He was breathing hard, but smiling. "Commander Grant, are these our new allies?" "They are, Sergeant Palmer. Would you mind demonstrating some basic human capabilities?" "Sure thing, ma'am." Chris turned to the aliens. "Anyone want to arm wrestle?" The silence was absolute. Finally, a small furry being that reminded Nathan of an otter stepped forward. "I will attempt this challenge." It squeaked bravely. They set up a table, and Chris sat down across from the alien. He was being as gentle as possible, but even so, the match lasted less than 3 seconds. The alien's arm went down without Chris appearing to exert any effort at all. "Good try," Chris said kindly. The alien looked at its arm in disbelief, flexing its fingers as if checking that everything still worked. "How much can you lift?" Velk asked quietly. Chris shrugged. "In Earth gravity? About 300 pounds over my head. More if I'm just moving it." The aliens conferred among themselves in a dozen different languages. Nathan caught fragments of the translations. "Impossible. Dangerous. Monster. Weapon." "We're not monsters," Nathan said firmly. "We're just adapted to our environment. Earth is a heavy world with aggressive predators and harsh conditions. We evolved to survive there. By becoming predators yourselves," a council member observed. "Your eyes face forward. Your teeth are designed for tearing. You have persistence hunter stamina. You are apex predators." Lisa nodded. "Yes, we are. But we're also intelligent, social, and capable of great compassion. We bond with other species. We create art. We explore for the sake of knowledge. Being a predator doesn't make us evil." "No," Velk agreed softly. "But it makes you terrifying to those of us who are prey species." The next demonstration was medical. Nathan had brought a volunteer, Private Danny Foster, who had agreed to show the healing process. Danny had donated blood that morning, and Nathan displayed the medical readout. "His body is already replacing the lost blood," Nathan explained. "Full recovery in about 24 hours. "Without medical intervention?" a council doctor asked, its tentacles waving in agitation. "Correct. The human body has remarkable healing capabilities. Broken bones will fuse themselves back together. Cuts, seal, and scar. We can even regrow parts of our liver if necessary." "What about diseases?" the doctor pressed. Nathan pulled up another display. "Our immune system is aggressive. It's had to be. Earth has millions of microorganisms, many of them hostile. A human immune system fights constantly, even when we're healthy." "You're always under attack by invisible organisms?" "Yes, and we win most of the time. Our bodies maintain a temperature that would be considered a fever for most species, just to make it harder for germs to survive." The council doctor swayed, its color shifting to something that Nathan suspected meant distress. "You live in a constant state of low-level warfare, with your own environment." "Number 6. We call it normal," Lisa said again. The final demonstration was tactical. Lisa had her Marines run a simple combat scenario against holographic enemies. The council watched as the humans moved with coordinated precision, communicating with hand signals, covering angles, and adapting to changing situations. "They're pack hunting," Velk observed. "Like your Earth wolves." "We learned from the best," Lisa agreed. "Humans are social creatures. We form bonds with our units, our families, our tribes. We fight better together than alone." "And you enjoy this?" a council member asked, watching as the Marines cleared a simulated building with obvious enthusiasm. "Parts of it, yes," Lisa admitted. "We like challenges. We like testing ourselves. We like winning." Chris finished the scenario and approached the group again. "Commander, permission to speak freely?" "Granted, Sergeant. With respect to our new allies, the Krell sound like a tough enemy. But they bleed, right? They can be hurt? Defeated?" "Yes," Velk confirmed. Chris grinned, and several aliens actually backed away from the expression. That evening, Nathan and Lisa met with Velk privately. The ambassador looked exhausted. "Your people are incredible and frightening in equal measure," Velk said. "I have recommended to the council that we accept your offer of assistance. But I must know, Dr. Cole, Commander Grant." Nathan and Lisa exchanged glances. Finally, Nathan spoke. "Because we've seen what happens when good people do nothing. Earth's history is full of tyrants, conquerors, and bullies. We've learned that sometimes the only way to stop them is to fight back. And because we're good at it," Lisa added. "Earth made us survivors, Ambassador. It made us tough, adaptable, and stubborn. The Krell have been winning because nobody's been able to match their ferocity, but they've never fought a species that evolved fighting everything, including its own planet." Velk was quiet for a long time. "The council votes tomorrow. If they agree, your people will be asked to do terrible things. You will see horrors. You will lose friends. Are you certain humanity wants this burden?" Lisa stood, her posture military straight. "Ambassador, my ancestors fought in wars across every continent on Earth. They fought for freedom, for survival, for each other. Some of them died. But they never stopped fighting when it mattered. The Krell are threatening innocent people. That makes it matter. Then tomorrow, we will see if the council has the courage to accept help from Deathworlders," Velk said. "I hope we do. Because I think you might be our only chance." Admiral Ryan Cooper studied the tactical display with the calm focus of a man who had commanded ships through 3 different conflicts. The Helion Nebula stretched before his fleet like a vast cloud of purple and blue gases, beautiful and deadly. Somewhere inside that nebula, the Krell had established a supply depot that fed their entire western offensive. "Status report," Ryan said quietly. Commander Beth Holland looked up from her station. 5 ships confirmed ready, Admiral. 3,000 Marines armed and prepared. The council observers are requesting we reconsider our approach." Ryan allowed himself a small smile. The council had been requesting they reconsider for the past week. Traditional galactic warfare involved careful positioning, long-range engagements, and minimal risk to ships and crew. What Ryan was about to do would violate every rule in their tactical handbook. "Tell the observers they're welcome to watch from a safe distance," Ryan said. "Helm, take us in." Full speed. The 5 human warships accelerated toward the nebula. Behind them, a dozen council vessels hung back, their commanders too terrified to follow and too curious to leave. The ships were new, built with combined human engineering and alien technology. Thick armor plating covered every surface, far heavier than any council ship would carry. The extra weight made them slower, but Ryan didn't plan on running away. "Entering the nebula now," the helmsman reported. "Visibility limited, sensors compensating. All ships, weapons free," Ryan ordered. "Remember the plan. Get close, hit hard, and make them regret ever leaving their homeworld." Beth pulled up the sensor readings. "Multiple contacts ahead. Looks like a full depot with defensive platforms and at least 20 Krell warships." 20? Ryan leaned back in his chair. Beth, I'm almost disappointed. I thought they'd send more. 1. The first Krell ship appeared through the nebula's gases, massive and angular. It was twice the size of Ryan's flagship, covered in weapons that began charging immediately. They're hailing us, communications reported. Put them through. A deep, rumbling voice filled the bridge. Human vessels. You have entered Krell territory. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Ryan picked up his own communicator. This is Admiral Ryan Cooper of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. Your supply depot is now under attack. You can surrender, or you can die. Your choice. The response was immediate. Every Krell ship opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams and missiles. Evasive maneuvers, Beth ordered. Return fire. All batteries. The human ships didn't try to dodge gracefully like Council vessels would. Instead, they charged straight ahead, their heavy armor absorbing hits that would have crippled lighter ships. Human weapons, built using Earth's extensive military-industrial experience, fired back with devastating precision. Distance closing, Beth reported. 3,000 meters, 2,000, 1,000. Now, Ryan said calmly, the human ships activated their ramming protocols. Reinforced prows, designed specifically for this moment, crashed into Krell vessels at full speed. Metal screamed, shields collapsed, and hulls crumpled. The Krell had never encountered an enemy willing to use their ships as weapons. Launch boarding parties, Ryan ordered. Across the fleet, marine drop pods shot out from the human ships, magnetically attaching to Krell hulls. Cutting torches activated, burning through armor. And then, the real fight began. Sergeant Chris Palmer led his team through the breach into a Krell flagship. The interior was dark and hot, built for a species that thrived in conditions that would cook most council members. For humans from a death world, it was just uncomfortable. Move up, Chris ordered. Delta Team, secure that corridor. Echo Team, find the reactor. The first Krell warrior appeared around a corner, 8 feet of armored muscle carrying a weapon the size of a human. It roared a challenge, expecting fear. Chris shot it twice in the center mass. The Krell stumbled, shocked. Its armor had stopped the bullets, but the impact was something it had never experienced. Council weapons were energy-based, gentle by comparison. Explosive rounds, Chris explained to his team. They don't like kinetic force. Keep moving. More Krell appeared. And the corridor became a killing ground. The Krell were stronger individually, but they had never fought an enemy that used squad tactics, covering fire, and brutal efficiency. They had never faced soldiers who kept fighting even when wounded. Private Kelly Hayes took a hit to the shoulder that would have killed most Council soldiers. She barely flinched, switching to her sidearm and continuing to fire. Just a scratch, she called out. Keep pushing. The Marines fought through 3 decks, leaving stunned and defeated Krell in their wake. When they reached the reactor room, Chris placed the charges, personally. Detonation in 5 minutes, he reported over the radio. All teams, withdraw to extraction points. Negative, Sergeant, Admiral Ryan's voice crackled back. The depot is collapsing faster than expected. You have 3 minutes. Chris didn't hesitate. Double time, Marines. Move, move, move. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and sparks, fighting off Krell defenders who couldn't believe these small creatures were destroying their flagship. Kelly covered the rear, her injured shoulder forgotten in the rush of combat. The drop pod launched with 30 seconds to spare. Chris watched through the viewport as the Krell flagship's reactor went critical, tearing the massive ship apart from within. Nice work, Sergeant, Ryan's voice said. Reform on the fleet. We're not done yet. The battle raged for another hour. The Krell fought well, but they were confused and disorganized. They had expected the humans to fight like the Council, to maintain distance and minimize risk. Instead, the humans fought like cornered animals, throwing themselves at every target with reckless determination. When it ended, the Krell depot was destroyed. 15 of their warships were debris, and the remaining 5 were fleeing deeper into the nebula. The human fleet had sustained heavy damage. Every ship bore scars, and 2 would need extensive repairs. But they had lost no vessels, and casualties were surprisingly light. "Damage report," Ryan requested. Beth pulled up the numbers. Hull breaches on all ships, weapons at 60% capacity, shields degraded. Engineering estimates 3 days for basic repairs. And the Marines? 43 wounded, 7 seriously, 0 fatalities. Ryan nodded slowly. In a traditional Council engagement, those numbers would be considered catastrophic. The Council preferred to avoid combat entirely, rather than accept even minimal casualties. But Ryan knew that by human standards, this was a victory with acceptable losses. "Open a channel to the Council observers." The holographic form of Ambassador Velk appeared, looking shaken. "Admiral Cooper, what you just did was insane. You deliberately rammed enemy ships. You boarded them while under fire. You destroyed a depot that we considered impregnable." "We completed the mission, Ambassador," Ryan said simply. "At what cost? Your ships are damaged, your people are injured, and tomorrow, we'll repair the ships and heal the injured. Then we'll find another Krell target and do it again." Ryan leaned forward. "Ambassador, the Council has been losing this war because you fight to avoid losses. Humanity learned long ago that sometimes you have to accept losses to achieve victory. That's what being from a Deathworld teaches you." Velk was silent for a moment. "The Council will want a full report." "Tell them this," Ryan said. "Tell them that humanity just accomplished in one battle what they couldn't in decades. Tell them the Krell can bleed, can be beaten, can be made to fear. And tell them this is just the beginning." The communication ended, and Beth looked at Ryan with a mixture of respect and concern. "Admiral, the Krell won't ignore this. We just humiliated them." "Good," Ryan said. "Let them come. Let them see what happens when you pick a fight with Deathworlders. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need reinforcements, more ships, more Marines. The Krell wanted a war. We're going to give them one they'll never forget." Chris Palmer, freshly returned from the boarding action, appeared on the bridge. His armor was scorched and dented, but he was grinning. "Admiral, the Marines are asking when we hit the next target. They're ready to go again." Ryan looked at his tactical display, seeing hundreds of Krell positions across the galaxy. "Soon, Sergeant. Very soon. We're going to teach the Krell what humanity learned fighting on Earth. There's always another battle, another enemy, another challenge, and we never, ever give up." Lieutenant Danny Foster stared at the intercepted transmission, reading it for the 4th time, hoping the translation was wrong. It wasn't. The message was clear, brutal, and terrifying. "Commander Grant, you need to see this," he called across the intelligence center. Lisa Grant crossed the room quickly, her instincts alert. Danny had been monitoring Krell communications for 6 weeks now, learning their patterns and codes. If he was worried, there was a reason. "What do we have?" Lisa asked. Danny pulled up the decoded message. "It's from the Krell Emperor himself. He's dispatched Supreme Commander Thrak with their primary war fleet. 200 ships. Lisa. And their target isn't a Council world." Lisa felt her blood run cold as she read the destination. Earth. They're going to attack Earth. "It's a demonstration," Danny explained, his voice tight. "They want to show the Council what happens when you accept help from Deathworlders. They're going to make an example of our homeworld." Lisa was already moving, pulling up communication channels. "Get this, to Admiral Cooper immediately. How much time do we have? Thrak's fleet is 6 days out from Earth. Our fleet is 3 weeks away, even at maximum speed. Then Earth has to hold on its own." Lisa's hands moved across the controls, sending priority alerts to every human command center in the sector. "Danny, keep monitoring. I want updates every hour. While alarms rang across the human fleet, Admiral Ryan Cooper made the hardest decision of his military career. He stood in his ready room, looking at a holographic map of the galaxy. Seeing Earth vulnerable and isolated, Commander Beth Holland entered without knocking. "Admiral, we could recall the fleet. If we push the engines past safety limits, we'd arrive in 2 weeks, exhausted and unable to fight effectively." Ryan finished. "No, Beth. Earth knew this risk when we left. They'll have to defend themselves. Against 200 Krell warships? Ryan, that's a slaughter." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Or it's the moment Earth shows the galaxy what we're really capable of. Beth, I need you to take half the fleet and head for Earth. I'm taking the other half somewhere else." "Where?" Ryan pointed to a star system deep in Krell territory. "Here. Krell Prime. Their throne world." Beth's eyes widened. "That's suicide. Even if we had the full fleet, I'm not going to conquer it," Ryan interrupted. "I'm going to send a message. If Thrak wants to attack our home, we'll attack his. Maybe we can't save Earth, but we can make the Krell pay for every ship they send." On Earth, Colonel Amy Richardson watched the defense grid come online. She had spent the last 3 months preparing for this exact scenario, hoping it would never come. Now it was here, and she had 6 days to make Earth into a fortress. "Status of the lunar batteries?" Amy asked her second-in-command. 70% operational. "We're installing the last railgun platforms now. The minefield is deployed around the moon's orbit." Amy nodded, studying the tactical display. Earth had never been designed as a military installation. It was home to 12 billion people, a center of culture and life. Now, it had to become a battlefield. What about civilian evacuation? Impossible. We don't have enough ships, and there's nowhere to evacuate to that the Krell won't find. Amy had expected that answer. "Then we fight here. Send the word to every military base, every defense force, every armed citizen. The Krell are coming, and we're going to show them what happens when you threaten a death world." The 6 days passed like minutes. Earth transformed. Weapons factories ran day and night. Civilian ships were fitted with whatever guns they could carry. The moon became a weapons platform bristling with railguns and missile tubes. And everywhere, people prepared to fight. Captain Troy Nelson led the ground forces in New York City. He walked through streets filled with armed civilians, regular people who had picked up weapons to defend their homes. "Captain, we have confirmation," his radio crackled. "Krell fleet detected at the edge of the solar system. 200 ships, just like intelligence said." Troy looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere up there, death was approaching. "All units, this is it. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for, and remember we're humans from Earth. We've survived worse than this." The Battle of Earth began when the Krell fleet entered orbit. Supreme Commander Thrak expected a quick victory. Council species always surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. He sent a simple message: "Surrender your world, or watch it burn." The response came from Admiral Beth Holland, who had arrived just hours before with half the human fleet. "This is Earth. We don't surrender. If you want our world, come and take it." Thrak ordered the attack. The Krell fleet advanced, expecting orbital defenses to crumble. Instead, the moon opened fire. Railgun rounds, traveling at impossible speeds, tore through Krell shields. Missiles launched in waves, each one guided by targeting systems built from Earth's centuries of military development. The minefield, invisible until activated, claimed 15 Krell ships in the first 10 minutes. Beth's fleet struck from above, diving into the Krell formation with the same reckless aggression that had worked at the Helion Nebula. Human ships crashed into Krell vessels, boarding parties launched, and the cold mathematics of space warfare turned into brutal close combat. But there were too many Krell. For every ship destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. Thrak had numbers, and he was willing to spend them. They're breaking through the orbital defense, Beth's tactical officer reported. Krell dropships are entering the atmosphere. Alert ground forces, Beth ordered. And keep firing. We make them pay for every meter. Well, in New York, Troy watched as Krell dropships descended through the clouds. They were massive, carrying hundreds of warriors each. They landed in the streets, their doors opening to release the Krell troops. The Krell expected fear. They expected civilians to flee, soldiers to form defensive lines. Instead, they got ambush. Buildings exploded as humans detonated prepared charges. Subway tunnels flooded, drowning Krell warriors in rushing water. Snipers fired from every window, every rooftop, and when the Krell tried to advance, they found the streets themselves had become weapons. Troy led his forces in urban warfare, using every dirty trick humanity had learned in centuries of city fighting. The Krell were strong, but they had never fought an enemy that turned their own environment into a weapon. A Krell warrior, 8 feet of armored muscle, cornered Troy in an alley. Troy pulled a detonator from his belt and smiled. Welcome to Earth. The building on either side of the alley collapsed, burying the Krell under tons of rubble. The battle raged for 18 hours. In orbit, Beth's fleet was down to 3 ships, all heavily damaged. On the ground, every major city was a war zone. The Krell had landed, but they couldn't advance. Every block was contested, every building a fortress. Then, Danny Foster, still monitoring communications from his position on Beth's flagship, picked up something unusual. A transmission from deep in Krell territory, encoded in a way that suggested panic. Commander, the Krell are getting reports from their homeworld, something about human ships in their system. Danny's voice rose with excitement. Admiral Cooper did it. He actually attacked Krell Prime. The news spread through the human forces like fire. Their admiral hadn't abandoned them. He had struck at the heart of the enemy. Supreme Commander Thrak received the same news. His expression, unreadable to humans, somehow conveyed shock and fury. His homeworld, the seat of Krell power, was under attack. And here he was, bogged down fighting humans who refused to die. Thrak made his decision. He ordered a retreat. The Krell fleet began to withdraw, taking their ground forces with them. They left behind destroyed ships, dead warriors, and something they had never experienced before: defeat. As the last Krell ship left orbit, Amy Richardson stood on the Lunar Command Center, looking down at Earth. The planet was scarred, cities were burning, but it still stood. Humanity had held. Get me casualty reports, Amy ordered quietly. The numbers came in slowly. 40,000 military dead, 60,000 civilian casualties, 3 cities heavily damaged, 2 human ships destroyed in orbit. By Council standards, it was a catastrophe. By human standards, it was victory. Beth's voice came over the communication system, tired but triumphant. All forces. This is Commander Holland. Earth is secure. The Krell have retreated. We held the line. Across the planet, humans celebrated. They had faced the worst the Krell could send, and they had survived. Because that's what Deathworlders did. They survived. Admiral Ryan Cooper's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Krell Prime system. Before them, the heart of an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 centuries glowed in the darkness of space. 50 warships surrounded the throne world, with another 100 scattered throughout the system. Ryan had brought 15 ships and 1,500 Marines. The odds were insane. All ships, status report. Ryan ordered calmly. The responses came back quickly. Every captain confirmed ready. Every Marine officer reported their troops prepared. Nobody mentioned that they were outnumbered 10-1. Nobody needed to. Commander Beth Holland's voice crackled over the long-range communication from Earth. Ryan, we just got confirmation. The Krell fleet is retreating from Earth. Your attack is working. Good, Ryan said. Now we finish what we started. Beth, when this is over, I want you to take command of the fleet. You've earned it. Ryan. Don't talk like that. You're coming back. Ryan looked at the tactical display, at the overwhelming Krell forces between him and the planet below. Maybe. But if I don't, make sure everyone knows why we did this. Make sure the Krell remember. He cut the communication before Beth could respond. The Krell detected the human fleet immediately. Their defensive forces moved to intercept, expecting the humans to engage in a space battle. Instead, Ryan gave the order that changed everything. All ships, dive for the planet. Maximum speed. Ignore the fleet. The human ships activated their engines, pushing past safety limits, and plunged toward Krell Prime. The defending fleet tried to intercept, but the humans were already past them, using gravity and momentum to reach impossible speeds. Krell weapons fire filled space, striking the human ships. Shields collapsed. Armor melted, but the ships kept going. Entering atmosphere, the helmsman reported, his voice strained as the ship shook violently. Ryan gripped his armrests, watching the hull temperature rise to dangerous levels. Hold together, just a little longer. Behind him, Sergeant Chris Palmer stood with his Marines, already in their drop armor. They weren't here to fight a space battle. They were here for something far more direct. Approaching the capital city, navigation called out. Krell Imperial Palace confirmed ahead. Ryan smiled grimly. All ships, deploy drop pods. Every Marine, every armed crew member. We're going to pay the Emperor a personal visit. Across the fleet, drop pods launched like deadly rain. 1,500 humans fell toward the surface of Krell Prime, armed with weapons, explosives, and 3 months of anger. The Krell had never been invaded. Their throne world was supposed to be invincible. They had no ground defenses prepared, no protocols for surface combat on their own planet. They scrambled to respond as human drop pods crashed through buildings and into streets. Chris hit the ground running. His pod had landed in a courtyard filled with Krell civilians. They scattered in terror, unable to comprehend what was happening. Chris ignored them, focusing on his objective. Delta Team, form up on me. Echo Team, take the left flank. We're heading for the palace. The city was chaos. Krell warriors appeared, but they were disorganized and confused. These were honor guards and ceremonial troops, not combat veterans. They had never expected to fight on their own homeworld. The Marines moved through the streets like a force of nature. Every tactic they had learned fighting the Krell in space, they applied here. They used buildings for cover, set ambushes, and moved with coordinated precision. Private Kelly Hayes, her shoulder still healing from the Battle of Earth, kicked down a door leading to what looked like a government building. Clear. Moving up. The deeper they pushed into the city, the harder the resistance became. The Krell were rallying, bringing in actual military units. The fighting turned brutal. Sergeant Chris Palmer found himself facing a Krell champion, larger than any he had seen before. The creature wielded a massive blade and wore ceremonial armor that probably cost more than a spaceship. Human, the Krell rumbled in broken English. You dare attack our sacred world? Chris checked his rifle's ammunition count. Your people attacked Earth. Did you think we wouldn't respond? You are 50, maybe 100 soldiers. We are billions. Yeah, Chris agreed. But we only need to reach one Krell. Your Emperor. The champion roared and charged. Chris dodged, letting the blade crash into the street where he had been standing. He fired 3 shots at the joints in the champion's armor, finding the weak points. The Krell stumbled, and Chris finished it with a shot to the head. Keep moving, he ordered his team. The palace is close. Dr. Nathan Cole, who had insisted on joining the mission despite being a scientist, not a soldier, followed the Marines through the chaos. He had a different objective. While the Marines fought toward the Emperor, Nathan was searching for something else. Here, he called, seeing a building marked with symbols he recognized. This is the Imperial Archives. 2 Marines peeled off to escort him inside. The building was empty. its guardians having fled to join the fighting. Nathan ran through corridors lined with data storage, searching for specific information. "What are we looking for, Doctor?" one of the Marines asked. "The truth," Nathan said, pulling up ancient records. "The Council told us the Krell started their expansion 300 years ago, but they never explained why." He found the file 15 minutes later, a record of first contact, written in Krell script that Nathan had learned to read. The translation made his blood run cold. "They found a Council outpost," Nathan whispered. "An abandoned research station with navigation data for every Council world. The Council's own carelessness started this war, and they've been hiding it ever since. Doc, we need to move," the Marine urged as explosions sounded outside. Nathan copied the file and ran. This information would change everything. At the palace, Chris and his Marines breached the main entrance. Inside, they found Emperor Thrak himself, surrounded by his elite guard. The Krell ruler stood nearly 9 feet tall, wearing armor that gleamed with precious metals. "So the Deathworlders come," Thrak said, his voice carrying surprising calm. "You must know you cannot win. My fleet will destroy your ships. My armies will overwhelm you. You will all die here." Chris stepped forward, removing his helmet so Thrak could see his face. "And every Krell in the galaxy will know that humans reached your throne room, fought through your capital, and made you bleed. That's the message we're sending." Thrak's guards attacked. The fighting in the throne room was vicious and personal. Marines fell, but they took Krell warriors with them. Chris fought his way toward the Emperor, taking hits that would have killed a Council soldier, but he kept moving. Kelly reached the Emperor first, her weapon empty, fighting with a combat knife against a creature 3 times her size. Thrak struck her down, but the distraction was enough. Chris put 3 rounds into the Emperor's armor, finding gaps, making the ruler of the Krell Dominion stagger. "You wanted a war," Chris said, breathing hard. "You got one. With humans. We don't quit. We don't surrender. And we never forget." More Marines poured into the room. The remaining guards fell. Emperor Thrak, wounded and surrounded, did something no Krell had done in 300 years of conquest. He raised his hands in surrender. Ryan, watching from his damaged ship in orbit, received the confirmation. "The Emperor is captured. All teams, begin withdrawal." The Marines fought their way back to extraction points, carrying their wounded, never leaving anyone behind. The Krell fleet, seeing their Emperor held hostage, didn't dare fire on the human ships as they climbed back to orbit. Ryan broadcast on all Krell frequencies, making sure every warrior in the Empire heard him. "This is Admiral Ryan Cooper. We came to your throne world. We fought through your capital. We captured your Emperor. Let this be a lesson: humanity can reach any world, fight anywhere, and we will never stop coming. Your Emperor will be returned unharmed, but only after your forces withdraw from all Council territories." The broadcast ended, and Ryan ordered the fleet to retreat. They had done the impossible, sent their message, and survived. 3 weeks later, Jake Morrison stood before the Galactic Council as Earth's official ambassador. The war was over. The Krell had withdrawn, their expansion stopped by a species they had underestimated. Ambassador Velk approached Jake privately after the formal session. "We owe humanity a debt we can never repay." Jake shook his head. "You gave us a purpose, Ambassador. Earth was alone in the universe, and you showed us we could be part of something larger. And now the galaxy fears you," Velk said quietly. "They call humans the Deathworlders, who broke an empire. Let them fear," Jake said. "Fear keeps people honest. But make sure they also know this humans are loyal to our friends. We fought for the Council because it was right, not for glory or conquest. That's what being from Earth teaches you. Survival isn't enough. You have to stand for something." Nathan Cole published his findings about the Council's role in starting the war. The political shockwaves were immediate and severe, but it brought change. The Council became more transparent, more honest, more willing to accept responsibility. And across the galaxy, something remarkable began to happen. Aliens came to Earth, not as conquerors or traitors, but as students. They wanted to learn what made humans so effective. Some came for military training. Others came to study human art, philosophy, and culture. Earth became the center of a new era. Not because humans had conquered, but because they had defended. Not because they were the strongest, but because when the call came, they answered. Ryan Cooper, promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood on the Lunar Command Center 1 year after the Battle of Earth. He looked down at the planet, seeing the scars healing, cities rebuilding, life continuing. Was it worth it? Commander, Beth Holland asked, joining him. Ryan thought about the soldiers who had died, the civilians who had suffered, the price paid for victory. Ask me that question again in 100 years, when species across the galaxy are still free because we fought. Then, I'll tell you yes. Below them, Earth turned in the darkness. A blue and green jewel that had produced a species the universe would never forget. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and the galaxy would never be the same.